So this lecture is going to go over what a variable is and what the different types of them are. So after you've figured out what your population of interest is, what type of study you're going to perform, what sampling method you're going to induce, what you want to figure out is, what are you interested in? And how are you going to get data that studies or tests what you're interested in? And that's what a variable is. It's a characteristic of some observational unit that you can assign a number or category to. And there's a whole bunch of different types of variables that we may be interested in. There's an infinite amount of variables essentially in this world. Here kind of are some examples. How fast can someone run a mile? That variable is time. Think of that as assigning a number to how fast someone can run a mile. Species of whales. This would be a category, right? The different types of whales. It's not necessarily a number, but it's a category or a group. And the third type of variable is color of a dog's favorite hat. So this is a little silly one, but this is your first glimpse at my dog Cooper. So he is a pit bull boxer mix, and that is his favorite hat. It's a green hat, but disclaimer, he does not like wearing that hat. What I'm trying to get out of this slide is that there's going to be two main types of variables that we're working with: a numerical variable or a categorical variable. So the variable that we're going to cover first is what's called a categorical variable. And this type of variable assigns an observational unit into a limited amount of groups or categories. And within categorical variables, there's going to be two types. One which is called nominal and another which is called ordinal. Nominal means that there's no intrinsic ordering to that variable. Nominal, no ordering. So think of, for instance, favorite sports. Right? There's no reason if you were to list sports that you should put baseball after hockey, hockey before soccer, soccer in between swimming and tennis. There's no really rhyme or reason to put one sport before the other. Same with car brands. Right? Why would you put a Toyota in front of a Honda, a Jaguar in front of an Aston Martin, things like that. An ordinal variable, however, has a certain ordering to it, like letter grades. The best score you can get is an A, then B, C, D, and F. There's an ordering to those letters. Same thing with airplane classes. There's economy, economy plus, business class, first class, which represents how nice you're treated at that specific airline and things like that. So there's ordering to some variables, categorical variables, and there's non-ordering to others, which we call a nominal variable. It's important, though, to distinguish between different types of variables because depending on the type of variable will affect how you analyze the data. The second main type of variable is what's called the numeric variable, and this assigns an amount to an observational unit. And just like there was with categorical variables, there's going to be two types of numeric variables, one which we'll call discrete and the other which we'll call continuous. Discrete technically means that this variable has a countable amount of outcomes. Think of this maybe a little bit more basically as a finite set of data. Technically, it can be countably infinite, which we'll talk about, but you can think of it in a better sense as finite. Continuous has an uncountable amount of outcomes. Think of this as an infinite data set or a set of values. So some discrete examples we can think of as an ACT score. So if you've taken the ACT, it's a standardized test, and I believe it's through the scores of 1 through 36. And you can't get something like a 28.5, right? So you can only get 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 36. Same thing with bowling, right? Bowling, you can't bowl 115.25. You can only get kind of whole numbers, and you can score between 0 and 300. The one kind of tricky one that I list here is the natural numbers, right? The natural numbers are technically infinite. 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to infinity. But we still call this a discrete variable. And here's why. When we think about continuous variables, these are ones you can't count. So think of the decimals between 0 and 1. If you were to count all the decimals, what would be the first number you say? 0.000000000. You'll never get to the first decimal. You can't count these decimals. So this is the reason why the natural numbers is discrete and something like the decimals between 0 and 1 is continuous. We also have age listed as continuous, as a continuous variable. And this is because age can take on any amount or any number if you want to get more and more specific. Right? If you think of your age at this very moment, maybe you're 20 years old, 2 months, 4 weeks, 6 days, 7 hours, 10 minutes, 4 seconds, 10 milliseconds, and so on and so forth. You can always get more and more and more specific. There's an infinite amount of outcomes or an infinite amount of ages just between the ages 20 and 21. You won't be able to count all of them. There's an infinite amount of them. You can always get more and more and more specific. Again, it's really important to distinguish what type of variable that you're working with because that will affect how we analyze the data. And as we get into more complex analyses, something that I find students have trouble with is maybe picking the correct analyses. So what you should do in that moment, if you find yourself struggling with that, is just think about, all right, are we dealing with a categorical variable or a numeric variable? And then figure out, well, what subtype? For categorical, is it nominal ordinal? For numeric, is it discrete or continuous? And I think that will help you a lot down the road, especially when we start doing some more complex analyses type stuff.